An age-old technology is bringing the world of books to life for new audiences. According to the Audio Publishers Association, about 55 million people listen to an audiobook each year, and that number continues to grow.
An audiobook is simply an audio recording of what has already been written.
Casey Richter is an assistant professor of practice at the College of Journalism and Mass Communications of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. This semester, Richter taught her first audiobook production class as a pop-up course for developing vocal performance and editing skills.
Audiobooks have been around for a long time, but have just started increasing in popularity with the rise of people being able to access things like audio and video on their phones on the go.
Audiobooks have been around a while. 1932, to be exact, when the American Foundation for the Blind established a recording studio to put books on vinyl records. And after Congress passed an amendment the next year, the Library of Congress got in on making them too. Soon after, more recording companies came about, mostly for reading Shakespeare plays, the Constitution, and common novels to benefit the blind. In the 1960s, new technology allowed for audiobook cassette tapes, and by 1994, the word audiobook was an industry standard. 1 year later, a company called Audible allowed for downloading books onto computers. Now you can experience an audiobook on physical CD, as a digital download from the library or from vendors like Amazon, or you can subscribe to a cloud service for access to thousands of titles. So as Richter said, audiobooks have expanded their usefulness from a tool for the visually impaired to a widely used media today.
People listen to audiobooks on a plane, on a train, mowing the yard, cleaning the house. There's a lot of ways to take in that media.
Because audiobooks are on the rise, more publishers are demanding them, which creates a thriving market for audiobook producers and voice work.
A Pew Research study recently came out, it was in September, I think, that said 1 in 5 Americans are now listening to audiobooks. That's not just podcasts, that's not audio on their phone, something like Spotify. This is specifically audiobooks, and that's up 7% from 2008. It's been on the rise for a number of years. So it's not going anywhere. And publishers are finding that if they don't have an audiobook available, that they're losing a potential sale.
But it's hard to get your foot in the door of the voiceover community when you haven't had any experience. Richter's pop-up class not only taught audiobook production skills, but also provided the opportunity for students to get their finished product published by the Nebraska Press. While Richter's class worked with audio booths and Adobe Audition to produce their final product for publication, the average Joe can be an audiobook producer in their own home with a little preparation. Setting up a home studio is neither outrageously hard nor expensive. Richter says you can get a good microphone for under $200. The mic needs to be plugged into either a recording device or a laptop computer. As for the software to use when recording and editing on a computer, UNL students have access to Adobe Audition, but a free alternative is Audacity. The next step is to find a relatively soundproof area with lots of soft surfaces. A closet full of clothing is an excellent choice due to the sound-absorbing characteristics of hanging clothing. Once you have that all set up, you're ready to go. Richter says the challenge isn't in recording, though. The challenge is in the vocal performance and the practice of reading.
There are some things, best practices that we do standing when we talk, for example, or if there is a stumble, making sure that we retake from the last punctuation mark. That way, when we edit together, it sounds nice and smooth and seamless. Making sure that your levels are right.
The biggest worry Richter says she gets from students is that they don't like their voices. But she says not to worry about that.
Ultimately, we want to hear real human voices so we can get real human emotion from the text. So there is no such thing as the right voice for this or the wrong voice for this. It's knowing what you sound like and picking, hopefully you'll be in a situation where you can choose, a text that makes sense for something that you are interested in and that makes sense for your voice, and then everyone wins.
After you record your voice, software makes it easy to edit. It can be tedious work because you have to listen to your book in its entirety to make sure you aren't submitting it for publication with errors, but if you get into the habit of actively listening to yourself as you record, you'll have a couple good takes to pick from, which is the fun part.
When I have 3 or 4 really good options and I have the perfectly wonderful choice of choosing between 2 things that sound awesome, and then I get to be very proud of myself that I got to A, make that choice, and B, make those things sound great.
And then, after mastering by listening back, checking levels, and adding any necessary filters to smooth out your voice, the book is ready for publication, and you can be proud of your work. Richter says the personal benefit of producing an audiobook comes from a sense of creation.
I've been doing voice work for a really long time, and this is a totally different kind of voice work. It taught me a lot of things about my bad habits when I record. It taught me a lot of things about the parts of my voice I don't love, but it also taught me a lot of things about my ability to interpret copy in ways that I don't do in things like commercials or in my radio show. It showed me there was a lot more depth to my ability to interpret that kind of copy than I really realized was there.
Because I took Richter's pop-up class, I have a produced audiobook on its way to publication right now. My project was on a full book of contemporary poems called A Mind Like This by Susan Blackwell Ramsey. The vocabulary of catastrophe is lovely, as if volcanologists built their laboratories out of slabs of jewels. The words are handholds stapled to hurricanes, full of L's forcing the tongue to ululate. Plinian column, pyroclastic flow, blowdown, mud flow, steaming fumaroles, standing dead. I have high aspirations that my book will be both a helpful and fun way of reading material that one might not otherwise pick up. So whether you're happy as a passive listener or want to try your hand at a DIY audiobook performance and the editing process, audiobooks will be as relevant today as they are tomorrow.
Anyone can do this if they have a minimal amount of equipment, a space that is conducive to recording that doesn't have a lot of background noise, and they frankly just have the stamina and persistence to make it happen.